Welcome to Send It Jon Boats. In today's video, we're working on my 1648 Jon Boat build. I'm building this crazy, like, armored bumper, brush guard, light bar, crazy looking thing, and it's amazing. You don't want to miss it. I promise. It's super cool. And you've never seen anything like it before on YouTube. I know because I checked. Stick around, show you how we do it. Send it. If you like Jon Boats, mud motors, and things that make you want to just yell, yeah, yeah, then you've come to the right place, partner. If this is your first time on the channel, make sure you go right down below here, hit that subscribe button and a little bell thingy right next to it so that you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. So today we're going to be talking about how I built this giant contraption on the front of the boat. I'm really not even sure what to call this thing. It's like a brush guard slash armored bumper and light bar and all kind of stuff all in one. So there's a few reasons why I wanted to build this big thing in the first place. This boat took a hit at some point in time in its previous life, and the whole front end is kind of tweaked. I don't know about the integrity of the weld, so I wanted to stiffen this whole front end up. Plus, we're going to be jumping over stumps and logs and stuff and hitting stuff with the front of the boat, so I want to make sure that it's really, really tough. I also had to come up with a solution to hold my light bars that I wanted. I wanted some to shine off on each side, and I wanted one to go out the front. And I also needed a place where I could put stakeout poles through the front of the boat to tie me into the river bottom whenever I wanted to fish somewhere shallow. So this here giant contraption, I don't know what we're going to call it. We're just going to call it brush guard for now. But this thing is made out of all steel. Now, I had a viewer in one of the last videos make a very, very good point in the comments, and me and him had a long conversation. I really appreciated him putting his input, and I wanted to remind everyone, it is not normal and it is usually not advised to put anything steel on an all aluminum boat. With that being said, there are ways to do it and get around having to worry about that corrosion. It's not always advisable, but on this particular boat, I need it to be really, really strong, really, really tough, so I decided to go with it. What we're going to do to minimize any possibility of corrosion between the aluminum hull and the steel parts that I put on this boat, the front, and of course the support system that you saw us build on the back, is I'm going to make sure that the boat has a good coat of paint on it, and I'm also making sure that all the steel parts have a coat of paint or some kind of coating on them to separate the steel and the aluminum so that they don't meet and cause corrosion problems later on down the road. So we started out this build exactly like we did on the back side of the boat when we did the transom support system. I got a link to that video right up here if you want to check it out. But what this is heavy wall 1 1/4 inch tubing. I basically split it right down the middle so that it gave me 2 sides. I have one on each side of the boat, and it kind of goes around this top railing section. When we get done, all this will be riveted in, and that's how it's going to be held onto the boat. But once I got these top tubes cut to this length and sanded down, I went ahead and moved on up to the front section. Now this front section has a couple of different parts. It basically started with a 2-inch piece of angle iron that's 1/8 inch thick. So basically if you think of it like an L bracket, basically it goes across the front tube and down the front of the boat. So once I got this 2-inch piece of angle iron cut, what I did was I moved on to these big plates. Now these plates are 8 inches wide. I cut them at an angle based on the way that I wanted the light to shine out on the front. These are 2 10-inch light bars, and they're kind of going off at the side angle to give more viewing area to the side when they're lit up at night. But all I did was stack them on top of each other. I traced out where I wanted them to be, and I went ahead and cut that angle right there. So once I had my angles cut for the front of the brush guard bumper system, I knew that I wanted to put 2 stakeout pole holders in here. So what I did was I got some heavy wall tubing that was a little bit bigger than 1 inch on the inside diameter so that it'll fit a 7/8 inch stakeout pole without any issues. So then I stacked the 2 plates on top of each other. I used a hole saw to drill the holes through both plates at the same time so that when I went to weld this, it would be nice and straight. But basically what I did is I started out with a 1/16 inch pilot hole bit. I worked my bit size up until it was the size of the hole saw. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what size it was. But then I went through and actually punched the hole through with the hole saw to make both of the holes so that when I welded all this up, it'll be nice and straight. So then once these 2 plates were cut to size, I went through on this very bottom plate. I laid out where all of the lights were going to be and went ahead and marked all of my mounting holes. I went through, I started at the smallest drill bit size that I had, which was 1/16, and I worked my way all the way up to the appropriate size mounting hole for these lights. So the light bars I chose to go with, I've got a link down in the description box below to Amazon if you want to purchase these lights, but I went with the single row lights to kind of give this a compact look because I already knew this whole front bumper brush guard system was going to be fairly large. I didn't want it to be very tall, so I went with the single row lights to kind of give this a nice sleek look.
So there's 3 light bars total. The one in the center is a 22-inch light bar, and then the ones on each end are 10 inches. I think their overall length is about 11 inches, but the actual light itself is 10 inches. So once I had all the holes drilled, everything was in place. Only thing I needed to do was remove the mill scale. I used a flat disc just to get as much of the mill scale off as I could from these steel parts. And then I went through and started tack welding everything together. Once I got it tacked into place, I slowly went through and made my welds from one side to the other. I'm using a flux core welder, so it's not the prettiest welds in the whole world. They do make a lot of spatter and a lot of mess. And I know I talked about welding in the video that we did when we started the transom support system. The flux core welder works really, really good. There's no reason not to have one around the house. It runs on 110 volt, and you can do really cool projects with it, just like this. So once I got everything welded together, I realized that I did not like the way that this transition was, so I added a small gusset down here and gave it just a little bit of an angle, welded that into place, and I also added a little side support here to kind of box everything in. So once I got everything welded, I went through and ground down all my welds as best I could, nice and smooth. I'm not really worried about this thing being glass smooth because it's going to be covered with bed liner here in just a little bit. But the last thing I needed to do before I could get started with the coating was I needed to go through and drill all my pilot holes for my rivets that I'm going to be using on this boat. So I've got a series of holes running across the top of the boat that will go into the top tube, and then I've also got a series of holes down the side, and that will allow me to rivet this into place at angles opposite of each other to help spread any torsion force down the side of the boat. And the rivets that I'm going to be using are the same rivets that I used on the transom support. They are 3/16 closed end sealed rivets. They have 3/4 inch max grip, and this is what they look like. I got these on Amazon. I'll leave a link down in the description box below if you want to get yourself some of these. So once we have the coating in place, I will be able to install these rivets, and I already drilled the holes, so there will be coating down inside the holes, and I won't have to worry about the aluminum touching the actual steel. So you could just as easily use a orbital sander or hand sand this if you wanted to get it ready to put the truck bed liner on it, but I got a sandblaster and that's a whole lot easier, so that's what I'm going to do. Take this thing off, put it in the sandblaster. So I just got done sandblasting this thing. I was about to go put it in a paint booth and get the truck bed liner sprayed on it, and I completely forgot that I did not drill a hole in the back so that all of my light wires can come out the back. So I'm going to do just like I do everything else, start with the smallest drill bit and work my way up. I don't know what size I'm going to end up at, but it's probably going to be somewhere near 3/8 or a half inch. So the truck bed liner type coating that I'm going to be using on this brush guard bumper light bar thing, I don't know what we're going to call this yet, but I'm going to use this one called Iron Armor. It's sold at Harbor Freight. I've used it on a couple of trailer projects in the past. It actually holds up really, really well. I've been impressed with it. It's really cheap. It's like $8 a can, so I'm going to spray this entire thing with it. I'm going to start by painting the bottom side. I've got it set up on a couple of sawhorses that I use here in the paint booth. Once it's dry, I'll flip it over. That way, if the sawhorses happen to leave any marks or anything in the bottom of the coating, it's not completely dry yet. It's not a big deal. You won't be able to see it anyways.
I'm calling for you, reaching out to know if it's true. I'm calling for you, yearning for you, reaching out to hold you down, hold you down, hold you down, hold you down.
So this Harbor Freight truck bed coating does work really, really well though. So I don't know what in the world happened with this stupid can. This is the first issue I've ever had with it, but these little nozzles kept wanting to clog for some reason. I ended up having to just keep squirting lacquer thinner on it. It's like it was drying as soon as I was spraying it out. So if you buy this stuff, make sure you buy a bunch of it because you might go through a couple of cans just trying to get it to unclog. So one last thing before we wrap up this front bumper, grill, light bar thing, I don't know what we're calling it, but I also wanted to integrate some navigation lights into this thing. They're not going to be the only navigation lights I use on the front of the boat, but I just wanted to kind of have accent. So I got these LED strips. It comes in a pack of 2, one green and one red. You find them on Amazon. I got a link down in the description box below if you want to find those. So I'm not going to permanently mount them just yet. I still got to do all the wiring and stuff, but I do want to throw them in there real quick and just kind of tape them in place to see how they look.
Reaching out to hold you down, hold you down, hold you down, hold you down. I wanna hold you down,
this thing being made completely out of steel, I'm sure you're wondering, how much does it weigh? Probably heavy, right? Let's find out. So with the lights and everything installed, 52.4 pounds. So yeah, it's gonna add some weight to the boat, but once you see the crazy motor build that I've got planned for this thing, you're gonna understand why. I ain't worried about how much it weighs. Be sure to check out some of our channel sponsors like these guys, Freedom Lube. I've got links to them down in the description box below, as well as discounts if you want to use them. Sponsors like these guys are the ones that help continue to keep this video footage rolling out for you guys. So go check them out down in the description box below. Now we're gonna roll those bloopers here for you in just a second, but as always, let us remember, money can't buy happiness, but it can buy you a boat. Bye, guys.
Guard slash crap.
And you'll be able to see all the really funny bloopers that we
Today we're going to be talking about how I built this giant contraption on the back of the boat. Well, this isn't the back. It's the front.
Of course, just like all of our videos, at the very end you will get to see all of the really funny bloopers, and trust me, you don't want to miss those because I'm a retard and I don't know how to talk. You'll understand why I'm not
With that being said, I am doing it for a couple of reasons, because I can, because I can, that's why. On to the, I don't know what to do with my hands. It's to, why can't I stop saying on today?
So I just got done sandblasting this thing, and I was about to go put it in the paint booth and completely lost my brain because I don't remember what I'm talking about. What are we talking about?
Oh crap, I just dropped all my lights. Make sure this is secured nice and secured. I've said secured like 17 times. Oh dear Jesus.